What is cybercrime? Give me a few minutes and I'll give you the basics on how I think about it. Here are the cover images, and they relate to theft of funds by cybercrime, data breach, ransomware. We'll talk about those more later. I'll tell you what I think cybercrime is. I'll give you some nuggets you can remember, help you understand, point you to more resources, the usual disclaimers. Pause and read it if you want, or just skip it. What is cybercrime? Here's the simplest answer, the most obvious. Cybercrime is just the merging of the words cyber and crime. Cyber means things related to computers, networks, the internet, or you could say it's just related to digital things. Crime simply means it violates a criminal law. I define it in my book on cyber law like this. Cybercrime, cyber plus crime, when someone violates a criminal statute using computers and the internet. Most cybercrime is just theft, and the most common motive is greed and profit. Let's talk for a second about law and cyber law. I have separate videos on each of those. If you've seen them, you're familiar with my Venn diagrams to try conceptualize different laws and how they relate to each other. Laws are just rules that come from government, and that's this green box, all of law. Now, cyber law is one part of law that relates to digital things. Cyber law is where law and technology intersect, and it's a subset of law. Now let's think about criminal law and see how that fits in. That's this darker blue box. See where cyber law and criminal law intersect? We can call that cybercrime-related criminal law or cybercrime law, and that's one way to think of it. Let me show this one more way. Maybe you've seen my other video or my cyber law book where I introduce basic law. One way to categorize law is into two main important parts. There's criminal law and there's civil law. And each of those areas of law have what's called substantive law. Substantive law is rules for conduct, rules for what to do or what not to do. Then each of those areas of law, criminal and civil, also have rules for process. That's called procedural law, or how to resolve a dispute, what to do when one person or side says another side violated a substantive law. Now let's think where cybercrime law fits in, right about in there. So that's another way to think about how cybercrime criminal law fits into criminal law and all law. We'll come back to law in a moment. Let's talk love, a love story. Once upon a time, computers were invented, then the internet was created and started to be used more and more, and everyone loved it, including certain people who make their living by stealing. Let's call them criminals. And criminals use the internet to commit cybercrime. Data about us has value. It can provide us with credit, our credit history, our credit cards, our bank accounts, our assets. So stealing our identity has value. So criminals created identity theft. And cybercrime loves identity theft. They go together. They live happily ever after, always working together to steal in new ways. Let's define identity theft. And this is pretty much how I phrase it in my book. Identity theft is essentially when the defendant assumes the identity of the victim to obtain goods or services, to steal or commit additional crime. Identity theft is stealing, but with a twist. And with a single act, there may be multiple victims. And that's from my book. Why is cybercrime committed? Mostly for profit, greed, and it's mostly theft. Theft using computers, digital pathways and mechanisms, and we might not see the theft aspect immediately, but it's almost always there as the motive. Categories can be helpful sometimes, including with cybercrime, but sometimes, in my opinion, they're not helpful. They add unnecessary complexity. And you may hear other terms relating to cybercrime. To me, they're not really helpful. Computer crime, digital crime, internet crime, data crime, and there's variants of the word cybercrime for cyber-enabled, cyber-native, cyber-dependent. And for me, they're not helpful, but you may hear them other places. And here's an important question. Is it cybercrime one word or two words? You're going to see it different ways. I happen to like one word. That's what I'm used to. There are two ways to describe cybercrime. One is by typology, meaning what is the type of crime or method of cybercrime being committed. I'll ask you to focus on the 3 priority cybercrime threats we're going to talk about soon. And there are many other typologies, different ways cybercriminals steal. Another really important way to describe it is by the law, because a criminal statute defines that cybercrime. A law spells it out. If it's not spelled out in a law, it's not a crime. Cybercrime makes things different because theft is no longer local. Now, once upon a time, if a thief wanted to steal from you, they had to get close to you to get your wallet, your purse, or into your home to steal the contents. Now thieves can be anywhere in the world. Data has value, especially data about us. Theft before cyber looks something like this. The victim and the defendant were in close proximity. Defendant steals from the victim. Victim can report it to the police. And if the police work hard and have a little luck, they can catch the defendant. Theft with cyber is different. There are many victims involved in a single act of theft. Victim A, whose identity was stolen or bank account drained. You got the defendant somewhere in the world. Banks are involved. They issue credit cards. They hold assets. Stores are involved when there's in-store shopping. And it might involve police in multiple jurisdictions. And police know these are very hard cases to solve. So they might be reluctant to take the case. Let's talk about the 3 priority cybercrime threats. It amazes me that some people still have not heard of these. And if you haven't heard of it and don't know what it is, you cannot protect yourself from it. First on the list is email-based funds transfer frauds. Next is data breach. Next is ransomware. Let's first talk about email-based funds transfer fraud. And that's what this graphic is for. With this crime, cybercriminals steal funds using email impersonation to misroute the funds. They impersonate someone, direct that the wires be sent somewhere else to steal them. Other names for this are business email compromise and CEO fraud. Now let's talk about data breach. In data breach, that is an unauthorized access to confidential data. A cybercriminal who breaks into someone's email account, network, or other stored data. This might be reportable under data breach reporting laws. And the 3rd priority cybercrime threat is ransomware. And ransomware is malware that the cybercriminal inserts into people's computers, and it encrypts the data in systems, making them unusable unless you get the code to unlock them. And the cybercriminal extorts the victim to pay that ransom. That extortion, that's theft. That's the 3 priority cybercrime threats. Let's talk a little about cybercrime laws, meaning criminal laws. And there are federal and state laws. Each state has criminal laws. There are traditional criminal laws and some that are cybercrime specific. For traditional laws, let's think about the laws prohibiting theft and fraud, identity theft, a little bit newer, and money laundering. And then cybercrime specific that relate to data breaches or computer intrusions. And the main federal cybercrime law to have heard about is the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, or CFAA. That's an 18 United States Code, Section 1030. You can find the link to that description on the screen or on my website. Those are the criminal laws for cybercrime, or at least a brief summary. Then there are civil laws that relate to cybercrime. I talk about that in my video on data law. There's civil laws on reporting data breaches to require them to be reported. And there are civil laws requiring organizations to have reasonable cybersecurity to try to prevent a cybercrime in the first place. When we talk about cybercrime, we need to mention virtual currency and cryptocurrency, and that is because cybercrime relies on them very heavily. That is because cybercrime is for profit. That means they need to pay others that they're involved with. They need to get paid. And they need a payment mechanism that uses the internet and is anonymous or almost anonymous and hard to trace. I have an article on that and a chapter in my book on it and a longer video lecture on that. The Western Express case was how I learned about cybercrime and the cybercrime and identity theft economy while I was a prosecutor at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I wrote an article on it and a chapter in my book about it, and I discuss it a little in my virtual currency video. This is one of the earliest cybercrime and virtual money laundering cases in the United States, and it was investigated and prosecuted by a local prosecutor's office. Normally, you would expect a case like this to be handled by federal prosecutors, but we handled it and we did it well. Some important takeaways: cybercrime is cyber and crime. It's a part of cyber law. Something is not a cybercrime unless a criminal law says it is. We look to traditional laws. We look to cybercrime-specific laws. They could be federal. They could be state. Cybercrime loves identity theft. Think of the 3 priority cybercrime threats we talked about. Protect yourself against cybercrime with good cybersecurity. And I have lots of additional resources if you want to learn more about cybercrime, including my book on cyber law. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like. This is my reference slide. All of these will be in the video description. Usual disclaimers there. Thanks again. I'll see you in the next video.